Hi, welcome to a class about Kyoto culture and history. I'm Paul Carty. I'm from New York and I moved to Japan about 30 years ago. I've been teaching about Kyoto for 25 years. You can call me Paul, is fine. Today's video is going to be about 30 minutes. 15 minutes will be introduction to the class. We'll talk about weekly activity, grades, and the text. And then the second half of the video will be an introduction to the background of Kyoto. What was in Kyoto before it became the capital, before it became Heian-kyo in the year 794. Okay. First thing I'd like to introduce is the textbook. This textbook is necessary. You need it to get the background of the course, to get the idea of what I'm talking about. It's also a great way to practice reading and comprehension. Now, what do we do each week? Let me share the screen with a file. And I just do this. And I bring that up, okay? So we're gonna close and share. Okay. I think I have this. All right, there we go. So let's take a look. The first two classes are online. 4-8, of course, will be the day you're listening to this, introduction to the class. 4-9, we'll talk about Shinto and try to get an understanding of Shinto. Then what we'll do is each week on Tuesday, you'll have two assignments. One is to read a chapter, right? So you have a whole week to read the chapter. The other assignment is after the class on Tuesday, you'll have to write a free writing. I'll explain that in a moment. You'll have to do that today as well. Okay, so each week we'll spend 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, covering city of Kamu. And when that Tuesday's over, you'll have to read the next chapter, City of Genji, but also write a short essay. The minimum is 5 sentences on the work that we covered in this chapter. In addition, in class, I'm going to give you a worksheet. A worksheet is the questions for that chapter. You can use those questions to help you look for the answers in the reading. It can help you focus your reading. But basically, they're your notes in class. Okay, so each week you get a worksheet, but the only thing you hand me on the next Monday is your free writing, a short essay, minimum of 5 sentences, as long as you want. Okay, and you can see the rough outline of this class. We do Genji and talk about the year. This is around the year 794, 800, around the year 1000. The city of Buddhism covers from 800 to 1200 and how Buddhism developed in Kyoto. And Heike is connected to the tale of Heike, but also some other poets and writers. Then we move to city of Zen and talk about how important and the influence that religion, that sect of Buddhism had on Kyoto and Japanese history. Another thing we have to keep in mind is we have 2 presentations. The first presentation will be 6-3. That's about right in the middle. And you will go to a shrine or a temple and find out about that shrine and temple and make a small poster about it and present that in class, 5 to 10 minute presentation, okay? This is the only week we'll only spend 1 class on City of Unification about Nobunaga, Hideyoshi, and uh, uh, Tokugawa Ieyasu. Then, as you can see, we moved to T. City of Tradition is all about the Edo period. The Edo period is very long, 1600 to 1868. And then we go to talk a little bit about geisha and their importance. And City of Japaneseness is kind of the Meiji period into the modern period. So we'll spend 3 classes. And the last presentation is one about a museum. You'll have to visit a museum. So you have 2 places to visit, 2 poster presentations in this class, and every week 1 essay. That's your work. And the grades, the writing essay is 25% of your mark. So not for every class, but each week. From this Tuesday, you have until the next Monday to write. And classwork is taking notes. You'll have the worksheet. You can fill in some of the answers for homework, but basically you can also get them from the lecture, from discussion with your partner, and you have to be an active listener in class and asking questions. So that's a very important part of your grade. And the first presentation is 25%, and the next one is 25%. Okay. Absences, 2 are okay. There's no change. 3 to 4 reduces 1 mark. So if you have an A, you'll go to A minus. 5 to 7 absences, you go a full grade. You go to a B to C. 8 to 10 reduces 2 grades. If you have a B, you go all the way to a D. You know, if you're absent 10 or more times, it's a failure. You know, don't be absent so much. My email, which is important if you have any questions, is paulcardy@gmail.com. I'm not sure about this classroom. I haven't had the classroom this was the classroom last year. I don't know, but that is the class time, 10:45 to 12:15, Tuesday, 3rd period, 1:10 to 2:40. Okay. And if you need to send me an email, please, in the subject space, always put Doshisha class. That's all you need to write. Then you should say, hi, Paul. If you don't want to say hi, Paul, you can say, hi, Mr. Cardy, but that's fine with me. It's hi, Paul. I cannot come to class. You don't have to write anything else. I can't come to class. And then take care or be well. See you next week. See you tomorrow. All the best. Thank you. All those are fine. Just pick one of them, not all of them. And your full name, because sometimes I can't catch your name from the email, just as your student number. So please put your full name at the end. I cannot come to class, or can you explain this, or what does this mean? Or if you have any question, you just write. You don't have to tell me why you're not coming to class, but you should tell me you're not coming to class. Okay, very important to email your teacher when you have a question. Okay, now that is basically the introduction to the class. I'm going to pause the video for a moment so that we can go to the next section. Okay, now we're going to talk about early pre-Heian Kyoto. We're going to talk about what was in Kyoto before it became Heian. And so I'm going to give PowerPoint now. And we're going to go to full screen here. Okay. Okay, there will be 7 questions during this lecture. You can stop the video at any time and write your answer. You can fill in that answer at any time. Okay. At the end of the lecture, there will be free writing. That's what we'll do each week. We're going to do practice 1 today as well. Okay. Free writing is write a minimum of 5 sentences based on the information you've learned in this video. The key is not to worry. I know that's very hard, especially the first time you do it. You think, is this right? Is this wrong? Please don't worry. Write freely about whatever associations come to your mind while you're listening. That means while we're talking about something, if you remember an experience that you went to a Jomon museum or you went to a festival with horses, just make a note of that. And then when you finish, you can write a little bit about that. Okay, so whatever pops up into your mind, maybe make a quick note of that. You can pause the video at any time. Okay, so let's begin. Now, the first question is, what are some reasons to study the history and culture of Kyoto? What are some reasons to do that? I'm going to pause and give you, you can pause the video and take time out and write down a few of your answers. So take 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to continue, so you're going to have the answers now. So please pause, okay? Why study about Kyoto? Kyoto teaches us about uh, most of the important moments and developments in Japanese history and culture. So Kyoto is a key place where a lot of the history of Japan takes place. Of course, studying the past can give us insights into how to live now. Studying the past can help us, give us new ideas. For example, many artists have come to Kyoto and studied design and paintings and got inspiration for it. And there's other practices that can help us rethink our life and how to live properly. Another reason is we understand the place where we live, where we spend time, we feel connected and grounded to that place. Just like a person, if we know a person deeply, we feel more connected to that person. We're more likely to be careful and think about and pay close attention to that person. And places are similar. Okay. In addition, Kyoto is a very, very important city in the world. Of course, in Japan, but also in the world. It's been recognized as one of the best cities to live in. It's always ranked in the top 5 places to visit in the world. So it's very, very popular, as I'm sure you know. There are lots of very important historical buildings, rare treasures of art, and great museums here. In addition, we have the home for tea ceremony, began here. Ikebana, pottery and ceramics, kimono, silk weaving. They're all very closely connected and developed in Kyoto. Okay. In addition, we have beautiful nature, incredible food. Food culture is really important in Kyoto. Major festivals, fascinating festivals, lots of traditional industries, and important modern technological companies exist in Kyoto and create important things for the future. Kyocera, Rome, Omron, these are very, very important companies. And Kyoto has been recognized by UNESCO with 17 World Heritage Sites. Some countries don't have 17 World Heritage Sites, but Kyoto has 17. And here's just a look at them. Saihoji Kokidera in the west, Tenryuji, Kozanji, Ninaji, Kinkakuji up in the north, along with Rohanji. The 2 great shrines that we'll talk about today, Kamigamo and Shimogamo. The silver pavilion, the partner with the golden pavilion, the silver pavilion over here. Whoops, gotta go back. Nijo Castle, a very modern one, only 400 years old. Also Honganji, Nishi Honganji, Toji, and in the eastern mountains, Kiyomizu, Daigo, and 2 in Uji. Okay, those are the 17 World Heritage Sites that I hope you go and see while you're living in Kyoto. Okay. Second question, how did Kyoto change dramatically around the year 1900? Now, once again, this is a poster from that time, but it's been colorized. So there was no color in posters back then, but people would paint on them to make them, at that time, people would take paint and make them more colorful. Quite interesting practice. So take a moment 1 minute or 2 minutes. Your answers can be very short to these questions. There are 7 questions and 1 free writing. You'll have to hand this in on the first class where we meet each other, that next Monday, I forget the date, but the first Monday where we meet. Please bring that. So some questions can be 2 words or 1 sentence or 2 sentences, depends on the answer. So how did Kyoto change dramatically around the year 1900? Okay, so let's look at population info. 900, Kyoto was number 1. And for about, 1,000 years, Kyoto was number 1 or 2. Now it changed permanently in 1700. From then on, Kyoto was number 2. Edo was number 1, and at times the biggest city in the world. But 1850 still ranked number 3. And for a while longer, it ranked 3 up to 1900. In 1920, Nagoya moves to number 3. And you can see in 1970, Nagoya and Yokohama move Kyoto to number 5. And then, of course, you get places like Sapporo and some other cities that become bigger than Kyoto. So Kyoto's about number 8 now with 1.4 million. And those are some of the increases, the rapid increases in the modern period. Okay. Kyoto City is 827 square kilometers, right? It's only 18% of Kyoto Prefecture. Kyoto Prefecture is 4,000. So you can see it's a small part of Kyoto Prefecture. Kyoto Prefecture is not that big. It's the 31st largest prefecture, only 1.2% of Japan. So a small part of Japan, but a very important part of Japan. Now, here's what rapidly changes around 1900. For 1,000 years, Kyoto was Kamigyo, Nakagyo, Shimagyo. That's Heian-kyo. That is the center. That is where the imperial residents and the emperor live. These were all added on in 1900. Kyoto expanded greatly with the surrounding area. Not unusual. Many cities expanded at that time to become powerful cities. Okay. Kyoto City, as I said, 1.4 million. Kyoto Prefecture, the whole is 2.6, and that's number 13. So Kyoto, it's not that, this is very countryside. This is the area that has people. Up here, not so many. Okay. Now, we're going to go back in history a long time ago, 100,000 years ago. And I want you to imagine, when were people first walking around in Japan? People like us. Of course, a little different. They spoke different language. They dressed very, very differently. But that took place about 30,000 years ago. People crossed. There was land crossing because when the snow was very high in the Ice Age, the water was very low, and this was, you could walk across this area. And almost, this was very, very close to walk across. I don't know if it was ever, it might have been a river, a small river. Of course, it's the Nihonkai. Okay, it looked like this, but this was very, very close. 20,000 years ago. And this is when people were in Japan. The first person in Japan was 38,000 years ago. That's the oldest evidence we have found in Shimane Prefecture. And these are the periods we're going to discuss now, mainly 1 to 5, not so much Nara, but the Jomon, the Yayoi, the Kofun, and the Asuka. And how do they change? What's happening in Japan and Kyoto at that time? Okay. So, of course, the Jomon is 14,000 years ago. That's a 10,000-year long culture, a rich, vibrant culture. They were hunter-gatherers. They fished. They farmed. They had settlements. They were not just moving around, but sometimes they moved to gather food in different seasons. But they had settlements, permanent settlements. They used these for storage, oil, grains, and for cooking. They cooked big fish stews. They had pottery. These Dogo characters were not positive what they're for. Some type of religious ceremony, perhaps, but they're very beautiful. And intricate and tell us about them. We believe that some of these patterns might have been a sign that there were tattoos, irezumi, on the magatama come from this period, very simple ones of stone, um, perhaps jewelry, probably jewelry. And these were their houses, very comfortable, beautiful houses, good for warmth and dry. They cultivated chestnuts. So 5,000 years ago, they were planting chestnuts. Agriculture is a type of agriculture. So when you eat a chestnut, you can think 5,000 years ago, people were eating chestnuts. Now, the question number 3 is, what changes from the Jomon period to the Yayoi period? There's a Jomon village here. What's going to happen? So just to summarize the Jomon period, the groups who comprise the Jomon culture came from both the northern parts, Siberia, groups whose DNA matches closely with Native American Indians, for example, and others that came from the Ryukyu Islands, those whose DNA sometimes matches closely with Taiwan, Philippines, or Indonesia. The northern groups came from Siberian area. But there was lots of trade from the Ryukyu all the way up to Hokkaido, objects coming back and forth, except the Ryukyu Islands had no dogu, which suggests different religion. Now, a totally new group, language, culture, technology, and food. Having said that, of course, there was contact between Jomon culture on the islands of Japan and the peninsula, which is now called Korea. There's lots of trade back and forth. So those groups are coming from Korea. This, of course, is Yayoi period. And the principal change is wet rice, right? Wet rice allows much more, it produces a lot of grain, too much to eat, so you have to store it, and that's important. You have to keep it. They also brought metal, bronze, and later iron. Weaving, they became slowly. At first, it was a very democratic society. All people had the same power, but slowly, from the year 800, 700 BC, so 2,700 years ago, up until around 2,000 years ago, it became more hierarchical. Higher position, next position, next position. That's hierarchical, different levels, a complex society. And they mixed, married, and dominated the Jomon. So in present-day Japan, the DNA of the population is about 20% Jomon and 80% Yayoi. So Yayoi was a more powerful group and did mix and work with and conquer and push out the Jomon. So where did the Yayoi come from? Well, it's this area in basically Manchuria, what is known as Manchuria area. This is 9,000 years ago. And this group are responsible for the origins of the Turkic languages, the Mongolian, Tibetan languages, Korean language, and Japanese language. A huge study was done to follow the millet, awa, the millet grain, which was grown here, and it just moved here and here and here and here and here. And languages also moved. Okay, and here's the wet rice. Key point with wet rice is extra grain had to be stored. And stored grain is a valuable commodity, so you have to protect it. And when you protect it, you have to build towns that have defensive. Now, the Jomon didn't have defensive moats, ori, or towers, or fences. And as far as we can see, they didn't die from injury. They died from disease, the Jomon. But the Yayoi period, there was lots of fighting. There's people with cracked skulls and stabs, and it became a little bit more violent in this period. Okay. And some of the things they had were the do-taku, the bronze bell. This is in later Yayoi period, around 2,000 years ago. They were buried in hillsides, so we think they were used for religious ceremony, protection, maybe to help the food grow in the fields. We're not 100% sure, but they are beautifully developed. Magical mirrors, bronze bells, might have been worn around the priest's neck, and so it shined with the sun and created a powerful figure. These were the metal came from China and Korea, and in late Yayoi started to be produced in Japan. Okay, and these are all kept in burial grounds, for the highest level groups. Okay, now we move to the Kofun period. As we can see, there is an example of a Kofun, and what happens in this period is a change with horses. Horses come. There's a consolidation of power. I think that's going to be my next question. What important animal appeared in Japan during the Kofun period? Why was that significant? Okay, what important animal? And that, of course, is the horse. And it helped the Yamato group gain control. The horse was a good animal for war, for battle. And at that time, from the peninsula of Korea, there is a continual stream of immigrants coming in. This doesn't stop. This happens in the Yayoi, it happens in the Kofun, and it continues in the Asuka period as well. Interestingly, there are no more large fortifications because groups take power, right? Powerful groups. There's no back and forth fighting. They take control of the area. And this is a period where there's a construction of huge burial tombs, which means power is consolidated, gathered by one group. Okay. Lots of sharing between the two islands of Korea and Japan. We can see these are in the burial grounds. A Haniwa horse is a prized possession in the burial grounds. This is an extraordinary kofun here. Okay. Now, from the Kofun period to the Asuka period, how did rich people use their money to show their power and prestige? So previously, if you're the most powerful, that's what you built. You built a kofun. But this changes. And how does it change? Because the arrival of Buddhism. Buddhism brings enormous changes to Japan. You can see Horyuji being built here in the 607, one of the oldest wooden structures in the world, and was founded by Prince Shotoku Taishi. Now, the next question is, this gives us a better sense of what Kyoto was like in the Asuka period, the 5th century, the 6th century. And we learn there were many important clans in Kyoto. So take a moment just to write, do you know the names of any of those clans? Do you recognize them? Do you recognize them from places in Kyoto? So we're talking about 1,500, 1,600 years ago. These groups have an enormous influence on Kyoto today. We can see place names, we can see temples and shrines, all developed by these important clans. Why are they important clans? The Yamato kingdom in Nara and in Osaka area, they had supporting families to help them. And those supporting families were given land and control over many areas of the Japanese peninsula. Okay, now let's take a look. One of the important names we're going to look at is the Hata. They founded important shrines like Fushimi Inari, Matsuo Taisha, and the temple Koryuji. What they're very famous for is their introduction of silk weaving, silkworms, silk development. You can see from their area, their famous supporter and very closely connected friend, you could say, is Shotoku Taishi. How do we know? Because he gave a gift. This gift, we have it recorded, was sent by Shotoku Taishi to the Hata, and it's one of the most famous. It's the first national treasure, Miroku Posatsu, and it's at Koruji. Now, Koruji is considered the oldest temple in Kyoto, founded around 603 by Hata no Kawakatsu. Okay, and where is Koruji? It's here. It's on the Randen line. Randen line's a fantastic line in Uzumasa. What does Uzumasa mean? Masa means gathering or piling. And uza is like a swirl of silk thread. So you can see the origins of this. And here is the other important shrine, Matsuo Taisha. So the Hata family really control this area. And of course, they actually sold Heian-kyo palace area to the Emperor Kamo. So they had a lot. They were one of the most important families. Now, this Randen line, I recommend you take it, especially during cherry season, but you can visit lots of interesting, it has two sections. You can visit lots of temples and lots of different places on the line. It's a very cute train line. Okay, and that's Matsuo Taisha in the west near Ashiyama, the Hata family's important thing. And Fushimi Inari also was founded by the Hata family. The other important group is the Kamo clan. The Kamo River is the name, is the river that flows through the Kamo area. There's a Shimo, a lower Kamo shrine, and a Kami, the upper shrine. And of course, they are deeply connected to the Aoi festival and protectors of water. Very, very important family. You can see the Aoi Matsuri, which is the oldest festival in Kyoto. It goes from Imperial Palace up to Shimogamo Shrine, up to the Kamigamo Shrine. Okay, and you can see that here. You can see our university is right over here. Walk to Imarigawa. Whoops. That looks like a kofun almost. That's Shimogamo. And that's the Shokubutsu-en, but up here is the Kamigamo Shrine, okay? And that's a picture of the Shimogamo, heavily forested area, the Tadasu no Mori area. There's the gate, goes down. That's the entrance way. Here's the entrance door, okay? And this is the Kamigamo, which is very open. And there's a reason for that openness because of the festival. One of the three great festivals in Kyoto started in the Asuka period. There's no question there. What is the name of that festival? And what activity is very special to this parade? Why? Okay, so on May 1st, the parade started in 550, the procession, from May 1st to May 15th. So it's quite a long festival. It has many parts to the festival, okay? On May 3rd at Shimogamo Shrine, they have the Yabusame Shinji, where you ride very fast and shoot arrows. And May 5th at Kamigamo Shrine, they have the Kamo Kurabeuma, right? Where you race the horses. Now, what's happening is these clans were given the land, and they were given the land because of their knowledge of horses and being a soldier, shooting arrows, basically, at high speed and racing and being skilled on horses. The Hata family continued to show their honor to their ancestors by racing horses at the festival, at the beginning of the festival. Later on the festival, it becomes a much more religious ceremony, but they recognize their roots or their origins, okay? I hope that was an interesting background to pre-Heian Kyoto. Once again, the free writing, write a minimum of 5 sentences based on the information that you've learned. Key is not to worry, no wrong or right answer. Write freely about whatever comes to your mind. Okay, tomorrow we'll have another video. That video, or you can watch a video at any time really, but I'm going to make it tomorrow. That'll be about Shinto, because our first project will be about Shinto. And I might mention what the posters look like. But I look forward to teaching you in person, not just online. Fortunately, we don't have to do online. And I'll see you soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.